Alright, it is October 1st, 2013. Good evening. I'm going to be reading Romans chapter 6 in the Mirror translation. Alright, it starts out. It is not possible to interpret grace as a cheap excuse to continue in sin. It sounds to some that we are saying, let's carry on sinning then so that grace may abound. How ridiculous is that? How can we be dead and alive to sin at the same time? What are we saying then in baptism if we are not declaring that we understand our union with Christ in his death? Baptism pictures how we were co-buried together with Christ in his death. Then it powerfully illustrates how in God's mind we were co-raised with Christ into a new lifestyle. We were like seeds planted together in the same soil, to be co-quickened to life. If we were included in his death, we were equally included in his resurrection. We perceive that our old lifestyle was co-crucified together with him. This concludes that the vehicle that accommodated sin in us was scrapped and rendered entirely useless. Our slavery to sin has come to an end. If nothing else stops you from doing something wrong, death certainly does. Faith sees us joined in his death and alive with him in his resurrection. It is plain for all to see that death lost its dominion over Christ in his resurrection. He need not ever die again to prove a further point. His appointment with death was once off. As far as sin is concerned, he is dead. The reason for his death was to take away the sin of the world. His life now exhibits our union with the life of God. This reasoning is equally relevant to you. Calculate the cross. There can only be one logical conclusion. He died your death. That means you died unto sin and are now alive unto God. Sin consciousness can never again feature in your future. You are in Christ Jesus. His lordship is the authority of this union. You are under no obligation to sin. It has no further rights to dominate your dead declared body. Therefore, let it not entice you to obey its lusts. Your union with his death broke the association with sin. Do not let the members of your body lie around loose and unguarded in the vicinity of unrighteousness, where sin can seize it and use it as a destructive weapon against you. Rather, place yourself in readiness unto God like someone resurrected from the dead. Present your whole person as a weapon of righteousness. Sin was your master while the law was your measure. Now grace rules. In the little print it says, the law revealed your slavery to sin. Now grace reveals your freedom from it. Romans chapter 6:15. Being under grace and not under the law most certainly does not mean that you now have a license to sin. As much as you once gave permission to sin to trap you in its spiral of spiritual death and enslave you to its dictates, the obedience that faith ignites now introduces a new rule, righteousness with God. To this we willingly yield ourselves. Righteousness represents everything that God restored us to in Christ. The content of teaching that your heart embraced has set a new standard to become the pattern of your life. The grace of God ended sin's dominance. Sin once called the shots, now righteousness rules. I want to say it as plainly as possible. You willingly offered your faculties to obey sin. You stained your body with unclean acts and allowed lawlessness to gain supremacy in all of your conduct. In exactly the same way, I now encourage you to present your faculties in person to the supremacy of righteousness to find unrestricted expression in your lifestyle. You were sin's slaves without any obligation to righteousness. I know you're embarrassed now about the things you used to do with your body. I mean, was it worth it? What reward or return did you get but spiritual death? Sin is a cul-de-sac. Sin is the worst thing you can ever do with your life. Consider your life now. There's no outstanding debts. You owe sin nothing. A life bonded to God yields the sacred expression of his character and completes in your experience what life was always meant to be. The reward of the law is death. The gift of grace is life. The bottom line is this: sin employs you like a soldier for its cause and rewards you with death. God gifts you with the highest quality of life, all wrapped up in Jesus Christ, our leader. So that's Romans chapter 6 from the Mirror Translation. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I love you guys, and I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day.